Leicester, and it's not raining. The gods are with us. Well, my journey to be here has been rather interesting, except the last 12 months. Apparently I'm too short. And again.
So is Richard.
Hey.
Well, yes, as long as you haven't got the noose ready, you'll be all right. I was very sceptical about the whole pandemic response, the lockdowns, the masks. But what really pushed me forward was when speaking to scientists who weren't on the payroll of Big Pharma, eminent scientists who spoke out and spoke their truth, and the media and establishment backlash against them was immense. These people knew when they spoke out they were going to lose everything. They would be cancelled by the media, and they did so anyway. And that speaks far more than any bought voice or sponsored research at any university by Big Pharma. And I bided my time. I knew that when I spoke out against the vaccines, the Conservative Party and the establishment would turn against me. I knew I'd be cancelled from the media, and I wasn't willing to do it for nothing. But when the MHRA announced that they wanted to vaccinate babies down to the age of 6 months, that was then the time to move. Because I knew that I could persuade even the most pro-vaccine supporter that, you know, the odds of any child of that sort of age being harmed by COVID were minuscule, less than 1 in 2 million, but the vaccine harms were very real. So I spoke out on the 13th of December against those proposals, and the government rubbished me. But the fact is that the government never dared authorise those vaccines for children under 5 who were healthy. So it did make a huge difference.
Hey.
I thought I'd get more allies in the Conservative Party. I've been to all my old freedom-fighting, Brexit-supporting colleagues in the ERG, and it's very, very thin pickings at the moment. I had a meeting in January when I was suspended for speaking out by the Conservative Party with a very senior colleague who you'd all know. We had an hour in his office. I already knew that he knew everything. His constituents had told me, they briefed him on all the vaccine harms. I already knew that his own sister had to go into hospital with heart problems after the second Pfizer. I didn't tell him any of this, but I knew. At the end of that meeting, when he turned round to me and said, "Andrew, there is no political appetite for your views on the vaccines at the moment. There may well be in 20 years' time, and you're probably going to be proven right. In the meantime, you need to bear in mind that you're taking on the most powerful vested interest in the world with all the personal risk for you that entails." Ladies and gentlemen, that is a threat. In our parliament, we're supposed to speak on your behalf, without fear or favour, in the mother of all parliaments. Well, I can assure you, currently there's a lot of fear in the country, there's a lot of fear in Parliament, and there's an awful lot of favour. When I spoke out about the number needed to vaccinate from the boosters, the efficacy and safety of the booster rollout on the 17th of March, again the government, well, my colleagues left the chamber and left me to speak to a minister who they put in, who wasn't even the Minister for Vaccines and couldn't answer any of my questions. And despite the promises at the dispatch box, I never received any answers to any of those questions. And the government once again said that I was a conspiracy theorist and it wasn't true. But within 14 days, you'll notice that the booster rollout was restricted to the over 75s and the immunocompromised. So it did make a difference. Where are we now? For those who are looking for the information, I don't know what more information about the vaccine harms can come out. The information is all out there. We do not get coverage in the mainstream media. From the moment I spoke out on the 13th of December last year, I've been cancelled by the BBC, ITV, Sky, Channel 4 News, everything. Almost as if I don't exist. But this is not unusual. When I was first elected as an MP, within 2 weeks I was aware of the sub-postmaster's Horizon scandal. One of my constituents was heavily involved in that. And within 18 months I knew that they were all innocent. Within 3 years I had all the evidence that they were completely innocent and could prove it. But for another 7 years, going around to all the mainstream media, they wouldn't put that story out. There's no difference. The mainstream media is completely controlled. They're completely bought by the narrative. But at the end of the day, people are waking up in this country, and there's lots of things going on. I think the agenda against the people has been going on for a very long time. I remember speaking to David Cameron when I was first elected, and I was never supposed to be elected. David Cameron told me you'd never win North West Leicestershire. They gave me no money from the Conservative Party. I put my own money in to pay for those leaflets, and the rest, as they say, is history. And when I always had a difficult relationship with David Cameron, he told me that in front of constituents that North West Leicestershire was a dump and we'd never win it, and I told him we would win it, and if that's your attitude, never come to North West Leicestershire again. He is,
or England.
On that one, because he never did. But I said to David Cameron and George Osborne, who regard themselves as great politicians, I said, well, why do we need to be such good politicians? If we introduce policies that make life more enjoyable, better and more prosperous for our constituents, our policies speak for themselves. We don't need to be great spin doctors, because our policies will speak for themselves. And they laughed at me. Obviously, it's all a game for them. And there's so much legislation has gone through the House of Commons. I came into politics to try and do the right thing for my people in our country. And I spent all of my last 14 years basically stopping bad things happening inflicted by our own government. And people will say, well, doing good and stopping bad things happening, it's basically the same. Well, it may be, but it's not as satisfying, is it? And I always thought it's like almost like a conspiracy theory. All the good legislation that would make your lives better, you struggle to get it through Parliament, and the bad stuff, which is clearly not in your interest, it flies through. And it almost was like a conspiracy. But I looked at the characters that were running the country, or supposedly running the country: David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, and these people, I consider, they weren't bright enough to run a conspiracy because they just weren't smart enough. And so it's got to be cocker, because they just weren't bright enough. Yeah. It's only when you realise they're actually having their strings pulled by someone else, and it's not even their agenda, then it all stops, drops into place. But there is an awakening going on. People are waking up. I think probably 75–80% of people in the country now know there's something seriously wrong with these vaccines. They don't trust the mainstream media. There are about 4,000 real people who work in Parliament. They're the cooks, the cleaners, the security guards, the clerks of other MPs, the parliamentary assistants of other MPs. 75–80% of them know exactly what's going on. It is apparently only our elected representatives and the members of the House of Lords who don't know what's going on. Well, I can assure you that really isn't the case. So I had a very soft-hearted new Conservative MP came up to me. She came up to me just before recess and said, "Andrew, I'm really, really worried about you. You seem really isolated in Parliament. You eat all your meals on your own. You speak on the chamber on your own. Are you all right?" I said, well, I am really. I said, because of all these people, the real people who work in Parliament, and they all come up to me quietly, and they're all with me. I can assure you, if I'm ever feeling down, I only look in my inbox and see the thousands of emails from around the UK and around the world supporting me. I said, I'm sorry. It's actually not me that's isolated, it's the rest of you. You just don't realise it yet.
Well done, Andrew. Well done.
My dear Andrew Bridgen, make the ticket organizers, my fellow citizens of the United Kingdom, freedom fighters, ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Mohammed Adil. I am a medical doctor, qualified as a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons of the United Kingdom and Ireland. and I've been working as a consultant surgeon, specialist in breast and colorectal surgery for the last 30 years with unblemished medical record in this country. I am very happy to join with you today in a moment which will go down in history as one of the freedom demonstration for the restoration of democracy, human rights, civil liberty, and freedom of speech and expression. The real courage of a man is judged not at the time of the comfort and the convenience, but at the time of the challenge and controversy.
Well
For
said.
the last 3.5 years, we have faced great challenges and controversy across the world, which affected 8 billion people. I must admire your courage, resilience, strength, and determination to be persistent, to keep safeguarding humanity for the justice and truth. I am "35 years of qualified doctors, and I always abide by my medical ethics, the Hippocratic Oath, which says first do no harm. The Nuremberg Code, which reminds us of Nazi's atrocity in Second World War, performing unethical, rather fatal operations on the living human being without informed consent. In 1947, the Nuremberg Code was introduced, which clearly says nobody can perform any operation or any medical treatment without informed consent to the patient. But unfortunately, these medical ethics have been seriously violated for the last 3.5 years, and people have been jabbed without having an informed consent.
Report, or probably forgotten about it. In 1943, it was released and it formed the basis for the framework of the National Health Service. I call it the framework for health, wealth, and happiness. Because without health, wealth is nothing. And without health, there is no happiness. 40 years on, we have seen the decline of the care in our health service. We have spent huge amounts of money on keeping the NHS going. It is the poor stewardship and the lousy management that has let the people down. We have some great doctors. We have doctors like Mohammed Adel here. We have people like David Cartland, Sam White, censured for speaking the truth, for daring to ask questions about the alternatives to the deadly vaccine. The government continues its propaganda of lies, of fear. It will stand by its propaganda. In fact, only last week I heard a new variant has come on stream and they've updated the vaccine. Now, what scientists can actually predict a mutation before it happens? Wonderful! Nobel Prize winner. Fantastic.
With Mickey Mouse, yeah.
Anyway, the government continues its way, but it makes no sense. When COVID pandemic was announced, the decline of the NHS was forcibly degraded. When you're supposed to be able to see a GP when you needed the GP most, you couldn't see a GP. So we have huge amounts of agony, of distress. Nothing makes sense anymore. Medical ethics was out of the window. There was no informed consent about anything. There was no safety data. How could the government do this to us? How did we let it happen? We let it happen because we trusted the government. Do you trust a dodgy government? No. Why should we allow them to vaccinate our children? Because coronavirus never kills children, yet we know the vaccine harms. I have come across, in my practice, young children with myocarditis, young adults with thrombosis, middle-aged people with recurrent shingles. That is not right. And my best friend died of accelerated, very aggressive lymphoma. I'm very sad and I'm very angry. Now, would you vote? Would you give a single vote to the Conservative Party? No.
No.
Would you give your vote to any party that supports the World Economic Forum or the World Health Organization? No. We want to safeguard our society. We want to safeguard our children. They are our future. Be brave.
So I was a healthy 52-year-old guy. Could never imagine the lies that would then lead to me taking this shocking vaccine that basically ruined my life within hours. I used to be a bodybuilder, I used to be fit, I used to work for a living, I used to have a very good life. The same government lied to my mother, who was in hospital and ended up dying from midazolam morphine. So many lies, so much corruption. Yet half the people in the world just don't understand, don't realise what they're doing to us. My life has a prognosis of MS in the future. In the meantime, it's a hard existence for so many people, not just me. There's people like Wayne, who's in a wheelchair. We're not looking for sympathy, we're just looking to highlight this to other people so they then didn't end up in the same position as we are. Everything we can do just makes a difference, we hope, to others. You know, whether it's your father, your mother, your brother, your family, your children. 2.5 years, these guys who come to Leicester, day in, week in, week out, doing what they can to make a difference. Whatever we can do makes a difference, I think. We just have to keep shouting. As soon as we stop, the government's won. So we can't let them.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you. It's always sobering to listen to somebody who was perfectly fit. And because of the lies and the deceit of these scumbags in Parliament, there goes more wax.
Hi everyone. You'll have to bear with me. Part of the disease that I've got, surgeon's disease, is drying out my nose, my throat, and it makes it very difficult to talk. But if you can bear with me, let me tell you my story. I sat and I listened to the politicians and the doctors that said we should have this vaccine, and they told us if we didn't, we risked our parents, our close family, anybody that we came into contact with. I'm ex-military and I couldn't put my mum or my dad at risk, so I took the vaccine. I had the first and I started to feel poorly. I started to feel old and I thought I'd just worked a bit too long on my 16-hour shifts and maybe I should cut down to 12. I took my second one and all of the small things that had been going on suddenly became very large. So from my tingling in the ends of my fingers to the tingling in the ends of my toes, it suddenly became shooting pains throughout my body. And I would get shooting pains up and down constantly, 24/7. It took me 3 months to get in and see a doctor with reference to this, and over that 3 months it just progressed. It became more painful. As it stands today, I've gone through a month in hospital and the conclusion is Guillain-Barré syndrome, peripheral neuropathy and autonomic neuropathy. Simply it means that my nerves have been damaged, and that then entails that my brain sends messages that get misconstrued by parts of my body and it does odd things. So I'll throw glasses across the room and it won't be intentional or in anger, but it just happens. And the pain that I still live with today, the doctors have given me all of their painkillers as much as they possibly can. There is nothing left except for me to learn to meditate. So that's what I do. Most recently, I've had more blood tests and a conclusion was I needed a new tablet to get my diabetes into control. Now normally my diabetes is perfect, but since having the vaccine it's been erratic, and at the moment I'm on the erratic climb. It turns out that this new tablet that I'm to take once a day every day is made by AstraZeneca, which is the vaccine that I took that put me in this position. The tablets are now going to be pushed by a lot of doctors because they help with heart disease and they help with kidney disease and they help with diabetes. And it just makes me wonder if they already had these tablets prepared and this is just the second part of how I will be feeling going on. Most recently, I decided to do something special to raise funds for the injured and the bereaved. And what I did was 10 marathons in 10 days.
Wow.
Thank you. I managed to complete the 10 marathons and actually ended up doing 11 because I got lost on one of them. Thank you very much. I'd like to wish you all a pleasant day. Thank you.
Well done, mate.